Good Sunday morning, everyone. They say beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. And when it comes to Trump's big, beautiful bill, well, everyone sees the big, but not everybody sees the beautiful.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
Well, in the smallest of margins, the U.S. House of Representatives passed President Trump's one big, beautiful budget bill just before Memorial Day weekend. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, announced the final total was 215 to 214, with one voting present. 2 Republicans joined all Democrats in voting against it, and 2 other Republicans did not cast a ballot at all. The large bill has several provisions. Among them, the legislation would extend the president's expiring 2017 tax cuts from his first term, and it would also add more restrictions and requirements for Medicaid, like new work requirements for childless adults without disabilities. It also contains increases in spending for the U.S. military and for the president's mass deportation plans. Not to mention, it also fulfills 2 of Trump's campaign promises, eliminating taxes on tips and overtime work. Here to discuss the bill and a recap from our nation's capital is Congressman Henry Cuellar. He is joined by KGNS General Manager Luis Villarreal. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for
good morning.
Joining us. Appreciate it. It's been a while, Congressman, since we've had you on Beyond the Headlines. We appreciate you making time for us this morning to talk about the big, beautiful bill. So tell us, is it big and is it beautiful?
Well, like Elon Musk said, it's big and is it beautiful, but you can't do it twice. I mean, you can't do it at the same time. And even Elon Musk was complaining about the debt that it adds, $4 trillion. You know, we did a calculation that if you add $1 bills on top of each other, it would go up to the moon and another 37,000 more miles on top. That's how much just the debt that it has.
We should just 20s.
Yeah. Well, do 100. Maybe it's less on that. But it's amazing just to show you the debt. You know, I always say that, look, I'm a blue dog Democrat. We've been talking about the debt for a long time. The last time we had a balanced budget was in the late 90s. It was a Democrat president and a Republican Congress that did this, Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, and they were able to do a balance.
Good old days.
The good old days. And now we're talking about debt, and we're adding so much debt to this. That's the first thing, you know, that Elon Musk talked about, because everything he did on Doge, or Doggy, how we say in South Texas, all the cuts that it added so much money on it. Now, there are some things that I agree with, but overall, you got to balance the bill. And, you know, when you cut Medicaid, when you talk about health care, 43,000 people are going to lose this. Tax cuts, I supported the largest tax cut in Texas history when I was back in the legislature, but it's got to be balanced. And if you look at the CBO, it would show that the top 10% will get more benefit, and the 10% at the lower will lose more when you look at everything together. And this is the non-partisan, you know, that we have. So I believe in tax cuts, but you got to have something that's balanced.
It's only non-partisan when one party doesn't agree with the other.
That is so good. You know, it's been non-partisan, but the moment somebody doesn't agree,
it's partisan.
It's partisan.
That's
it's,
right.
But it is non-partisan itself.
You know, I'm so surprised because
that's a good point.
President Trump has always campaigned on cutting, but this one adds so much more money. So why? How do they justify the additional money that's being added to this bill?
Well, no, there's a couple of areas. Look, money for Homeland, I support that. But do we need $50 billion for a border wall and other things that they want to add? $50 billion? When the numbers have gone down. I mean, the president has done a heck of a job in bringing the numbers down. So why do we need to spend $50 billion on border wall and accessories, number one. Defense, why, you know, and I sit on defense appropriations, but do we need to put that much money on defense? I mean, the first thing we need to do is keep one thing in mind. The Department of Defense has not passed an audit. We're spending so much money on it, on things that are probably waste and abuse. And I'll say they're waste and abuse, no ifs, no buts about it. So we just got to do it right. I support the defense. I support Homeland Security. But when numbers are down $50 billion on this, on the border wall, it just doesn't make sense. On deportations, I supported the largest number of detention beds. And as you know, I've got primary opponents in the past that ran against me. But the problem is, ICE needs detention beds because there are criminals there. And anybody says, oh, don't support the detention beds, I've always said this, give me your home address and I'll be happy to send them. I'll be happy to send some of those criminals to your house on that. So it's just got to be balanced on audit. So it does, instead of cutting, because people ran on cutting and cutting the deficit, it actually goes the other way, $4 trillion. $1 bills, past the moon, right. 37,000 miles.
Let's forget about the moon and the dollar bills for a little bit. So is the increase to the debt coming from the cuts or from the additional spending?
Both.
On both ends?
Look, both. Look, everybody loves tax cuts. Everybody wants tax cuts. But the bottom line is we've had tax cuts in the past, and this is after Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. Anytime you do tax cuts, revenues go down. It's like if you stop selling here ads, your revenues are going down, but your expenses, Mindy's salaries, big salary, cut that one on that. Wow. But no, just kidding. Just your cross looks nice. So the thing is, when you have tax cuts, less money comes in. And the problem that we're facing right now in Congress, it's very simple math. There's more money going out than money coming in. And it's not discretionary funding. It is the entitlements, the Social Security, the Medicare, all that nobody wants to touch. And that keeps growing, and it's about 3/4 of everything we spend at the federal Washington.
But Congressman, nothing's going to get fixed unless there's, and you referenced Elon and his efforts. There's a lot more to be done on the cutting side of things.
I agree.
But it seems like there are these untouchable programs that nobody even wants to mention because they're death sentences when it comes to getting reelected and things of that nature. But if we're ever going to get serious about this, a hard look needs to be given to all these excessive programs and abuse. And nobody argues with the need for these programs, the social programs that we have. It's that a lot of them are being abused and have been abused for so many years, and now good people are paying the price because of the abuses of these things. So, how does the bill address any of it?
Yeah, it doesn't. But I would tell you that in the appropriations, I have suggested language. I want to see if my Republicans support this Republican idea that I have. It's basically looking at rules and regulations that are outdated that cost us money. Yep. Looking at contracts. Any federal contract, I have not found one federal contract that says we're going to spend this much money. And then the contractor will get the money. And then once they have the contract, oh, by the way, things have gone up and it goes up. I'll give you one example. I got $36 million to do a river road here. Okay?
Yep. How long ago was that?
And that was a few years ago. But let me tell you what happened. The contractor got the money. As soon as they got the contract, they said, oh, we're going to need more money. And Border Patrol and them, they argued, and now the money's gone. It was sent back to Washington. Every federal contract, once they get the contract, they will ask for more money. So I asked for cost containment on those. If you're going to bid for something, unless if it's a change order, you better stick to that.
You better deliver what you promise.
And then I added also language for performance and measures to make sure that we put $1. So I added that. Well, I suggested that we add that. I want to see if my Republican colleagues agree with me to make sure that we have that to bring the cost down. But it's not only abuse and waste on this, but look, on Social Security and veterans and all that, modern medicine has now extended life. So people are living longer than the old days when Social Security was done. And what you are seeing now is basically more money going out than money coming into the system. And you're right. If we don't talk about Social Security, if we don't talk about Medicaid, veterans benefits, all the entitlements, that's the part that has grown in the last 30 years. It was 1/3 of the budget, the entitlements, and now they're 2/3 of the federal budget. In appropriations, we only deal with 1/3, $1.6 trillion. A lot of money, but it's only 1/3. 1/3. The rest is on automatic. It's on automatic. And you're right. If we don't start talking about this, have some hard decisions, and we gotta hold hands with the Republicans, because if Democrats try to do something, the Republicans run 30-second ads. If the Republicans try to do something, the Democrats will run. They got to do it the way Bill Clinton and Newt did it.
Right. You know, Congressman, I want to change the subject now. Just this past week, the international trade, the 3-judge panel said that President Trump's tariffs don't hold water. Tell us about how that's going to affect us moving forward.
3-judge panel, the Court of International Trade in New York. 1 judge appointed by Reagan, 1 judge appointed by Obama, the other one appointed by Trump under the first administration. They unanimously said, and that's their job, is say that the tariffs that Trump has put, the 10% global and all that, it was based on an emergency. And it doesn't meet the emergency. Now, does President Trump have other avenues? He can certainly appeal to the Supreme Court and go up.
Which he already did.
Yeah, which he already did. But the other thing that he can do also is there's other ways that you can go and set tariffs. The only problem, it takes time. You got to do an investigation, and you got to go after it. For example, automobiles and aluminum, those were not touched by the Court of International Trade. But everything else was repealed, or at least, temporarily. We'll see.
Right.
But the other thing is, they also mentioned there was something very interesting. They mentioned, as you know, the administration talked about illegals and fentanyl, and they said, it's really not an emergency, using that as leverage, which is what we know what the president was doing. So there are ways that the president can address this, but under the emergency, it doesn't fit that definition.
Wow. Okay. Sounds good. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you so much, Congressman. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, though, the new Texas Democratic Party chair visits Laredo just weeks after an attempt to condemn Congressman Cuellar fails. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. Well, earlier this month, the Webb County Democratic Party hosted the new chairman of the state's Democratic Party. Kendall Scudder made his way down to the Gateway City looking to kick off a statewide tour, choosing Laredo as one of his first stops, with a goal hoping to reconnect with voters. But it does come on the heels of a presidential election where, for the very first time in over a century, Webb County turned red. And there's been some tension within the party, too. Now, earlier this month, Texas Democrats even considered sanctioning Congressman Cuellar over his legal issues and a few key votes where he broke from the party. In the end, that push was dropped. Now, during his visit, however, Scudder said that his main goal is to remind Webb County voters what the Democratic Party stands for. So, once again, Congressman Henry Cuellar, he was at that meeting and continues to join us for this part of the conversation. You know, Congressman, we just wanted to get a behind the scenes of what happened with the meeting with Scudder, because one week the Democratic Party was doing something like this, and then the next week you were with them.
Well, first of all, Scudder had nothing to do with that.
Got it.
The executive committee had nothing to do with it. It was a small group of fringe activists that still can't believe that I beat them a couple times in the primary some years ago, and they're still upset about it. It's what I call that little group, about 3 of them, are part of the permanent Minority Caucus. They just can't realize what's happened in South Texas. They can't understand why Democrats keep losing, because they're just on the fringe on that. So it was not the executive committee. It was not also the chairman. In fact, I've known the chairman for many years, and he called me up and he said, this thing ain't going to pass the executive committee. The executive committee called me up. Did not start off in my congressional district district. In fact, I saw some strong emails from people here going after the people that were trying to do this. In fact, some of them might be even condemned by some of the local parties on that because of what they're doing, attacking not only me, but attacking other officials. So again, I emphasize it was a small, low group. It was not the Texas Executive Committee, and it was certainly not the state chair.
So in this meeting, was it generally supportive of you? The people that were
the one that we no ifs, no buts about it. They were on that. It was this group was even there. Was not even there. They're outsiders that still cannot believe that they lost to me in the primary twice. And they're, like I said, they're just, people that are still upset, and they're part of the permanent minority caucus that I call.
We wanted to talk about this, Congressman, because is this just like an example of the out of touch message or maybe climate that is happening with the Democratic Party, not just here, but obviously across the nation? This is just an example of that because you won re-election, so obviously your constituency across the entire district is happy with the work you're doing, but this little small vote at a subcommittee
Trump
level.
In the county.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the
shows.
numbers, I outperformed Trump in South Texas by over 10 points. I outperformed Harris by over 17 points or so. And in the past, I've outperformed Beto O'Rourke, Colin Allred, any national Biden, and other folks on that. So when they said that I'm out of touch with my district, certainly we know that these people from the outside are out of touch. They really are. Now, the question you asked me, is the Texas Democratic Party or Democrats in general out of touch on some issues? No ifs, no buts, yes. Yes. Just like we have some Republicans, the Tea Party folks, that are not in sync. Most Americans, whether you're Democrat or Republicans, they're in the middle on it. But some, what we have is you have the 10% on the right, you got the 10% on the left, like this group that we're talking about, and they're just out of touch with the American public. And yes, the Democrats need to change and understand that we want strong border security. We support oil and gas. We certainly support, without going into some of the cultural issues that they bring up, they think that's the most important thing. No, people want to talk about inflation. They want to talk about security. The basic
their
things,
livelihood.
their livelihood
Absolutely.
on that,
Absolutely.
jobs.
Congressman, speaking of re-election and the future, where do your legal battles stand right now?
Oh, we're gonna win that. No ifs, no buts about it. I feel very confident about that. And then we'll move on into re-election, and we're gonna win re-election.
When is the trial supposed to take place?
It's supposed to be in September.
In September. So, do you expect a long trial? Is it?
Let's see if we even get to that trial.
You think there's a possibility that we may not get there?
There are some motions that are going to be filed.
Okay. Well, where do you see the Democratic Party? Do you see that they have a plan after meeting with Scudder? Do they have a plan on trying to win back some votes?
Well, I gave them my suggestions, and I was very straightforward. I'm probably the most conservative Democrat in Congress. But I still do very well in my district, and we got to make sure that we not only move left, but you got to look at moving to the center as Democrats, and it's very, very important. And that was my message. And the chairman was here, and I thank him for showing up and traveling the district, which is very important. But again, the Democratic Party has to be more in the center where most Americans are at.
Are you more concerned? Speaking of your electability, are you more concerned with the primary or general election opponent?
Well, we won both the primaries in November. Usually November elections, I get, as the numbers show, I outperform Trump, I outperform other folks. I get a lot of independents and moderate Republicans. So the November election is usually a lot easier. It's the primary because of San Antonio. Yeah. But we've been working San Antonio extremely hard, so I think even the primary will be different this time because we're paying a lot of attention to San Antonio. San Antonio has about 250,000 individuals that represent almost the same amount of people over here. And when they did the redistricting, it was a new field that we're looking at, so we feel much better in Bexar County.
And do you have a identified opponent on the primary yet?
Look, it doesn't matter. Look, whoever runs, they got to go through a very difficult Republican primary.
No, I'm talking about inside. Do you have a Democrat challenger at this point that you know of?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, no, because I haven't heard anything.
It really doesn't matter. We're going to win the primary. We'll win the November Republican, as you know, the primary. They got a lot of people. But you got to understand, they got to get past the primary before they come in. There'll be a runoff from all the names that I've seen. And most of the Republican votes come from the northern part.
Correct.
It doesn't come from Webb County or any place here. It comes from over there. So whoever has the advantage over there will be the Republican primary like we saw last time.
I agree.
What do you think is going to happen as far as at the national level, as far as the election campaigns? Do you see any mobility there in seats?
Look, Democrats are short by 3, and it's important that we have checks and balances. Right now, there's no checks and balances. The last 20 out of the 22 midterms, the party, it's flipped. So that means we will probably flip the House. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's 3 on it. So the movement will be in South Texas and across the nation to make a change. That is, if you're a Republican, go to a Democrat itself. Unless if they're able to change the patterns. But 20 out of the last 22 elections, the party in power, which is the Republicans, will switch over to the in this case, to the Democrats.
Congressman, a question out of ignorance of operations inside Congress. When we recapped the votes on the big, beautiful bill, it was 242, 241, whatever it was, and then there was one identified as present.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means
does that mean an abstention?
That means Andy Harris wanted to help the speaker because he was a no, and if he would have voted no, it would have been tied. It would not pass. So in order to help the speaker, you vote present, not voting on it.
So it's an abstention.
It's an abstention. So therefore, his vote, because there were going to be 3 no's,
right.
It would have, killed the bill.
Yeah.
But to help the speaker, he voted present, not voting, and that helped the speaker. And keep in mind, we had 3 Democrats that died in office, cancer, and Sylvester Turner, Raul Grijalva, Jerry Connolly. That would probably have made a big difference. And on top of that, I think there were 2 Republicans that, bless them, but I can understand they fell asleep and they just never woke up. I mean, that's it. Because look, I hope you can ask.
You're making it up, right?
No, I'm serious.
Serious.
Yeah, I'm serious about that. I'm serious because remember, this beautiful bill was voted, started about 11 o'clock at night. And this vote was done about 6 o'clock in the morning.
It was all overnight.
It was done at 6 o'clock in the morning itself.
And you're all there during this time, or you just go vote and you vote at 6 a.m.?
Yeah, we voted. So you're there, you go back to the office, you go back. I sat there for a while on the floor just to watch it.
So these guys didn't wake up?
My understanding.
Wow.
I'm quoting the speaker on one of them. He says, "Oh, bless his heart, he's a friend of mine, but he fell asleep."
And he just never went back.
Yeah, never. Yeah.
Wow, forever
yeah.
now.
And I think they tried to run it, but they had closed it. Once they had the votes, they closed it.
That was it. Wow, interesting. Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate
you so
having you
much.
with us.
Always a pleasure, Congressman. Thank you.
Absolutely. And stick around with us. We've got the one thing we cannot stop thinking about.
I'm the head.
Well, it's the one thing we all can't stop thinking about, and Congressman Cuellar stuck around for that. So, Congressman, one thing you can't stop thinking about.
If that bill in Congress was so beautiful, my question is, why was it done in the middle of the night? The vote was done in the middle of the night when most Americans were asleep.
Including some senators?
Yeah,
some congressmen.
Yeah, there were 2 that fell asleep and never woke up on that. But,
Wow.
But yeah, that's my big question. If it was so beautiful, why was it done
In the dark of night? Okie doke. Well, Luis and I, we are sharing a one thing, and we just thought it was really cool that at the American Music Awards this past week, we have a Laredo song now that is doing very well. Take a listen.
I'll be somewhere over Laredo.
Well, that is Lainey Wilson. She has now, sang this song multiple times somewhere over Laredo. We even
Somewhere
have a
over Laredo.
billboard that is on McPherson that is paying tribute to that song, Somewhere Over Laredo. We just think it's the neatest thing. We can't stop thinking about it. So thank you, Lainey, for putting us,
That is very cool.
in the
the national spotlight.
In the national spotlight.
For 15
Absolutely.
minutes of fame for something good, or at least not bad.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. If you haven't downloaded that song, it's absolutely beautiful. You got to check it out. So with that, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Headlines. Appreciate having you with us this Sunday. We'll be back next Sunday for another episode. Until then, have a fantastic week.